purpose of today's session really is to compare hosted phone systems with your own equipment. However, the emphasis is going to be on hosted phone systems because that's where we're getting the most amount of interest lately. So we're going to go over kind of the benefits of it and compare it to your own equipment. So there's been a lot of changes in telecom recently. However, hosted phone systems have been around a very long time from the telephone companies. It was called Centrex. In the past, though, it was expensive, it was hard to manage, and it took a long time to make changes. The main difference between having a hosted phone system and your own equipment is the brains of the system move from your closet to an off-site closet. And when you do that, there are quite a number of benefits. The first one is business continuity. If there's ever a power outage or a natural disaster, your system can be up and running because it's not on your premises. The servers are located off-site, and not only off-site, but in several locations, and are backed up several times over. So it gives you a lot more chance that nothing can go wrong with your phone system, even if your business is affected. What I find kind of interesting, though, is only 3% of disruptions come from fire, flood, or earthquake. 97% of interruptions come from human error. So as an example, 42% are hardware failures. And I actually have I find an interesting story along these lines. A coworker of mine who's been in the business a long time had a phone system go down at 10 o'clock every single day, and they couldn't figure out why. So they had to go on site. And what ended up happening was it turned out at 10 o'clock, everyone took their break, and a person unplugged the phone system to make tea. So it can be as simple as that. Another human error can be just digging up roads, and they cut the lines to your premise and you're out of business, and it can take for days. The other ones are software corruptions, theft and break-ins, and hacking and viruses. We often can get hacking issues on premise-based phone equipment because they're not protected securely enough. Another benefit is freedom. With a hosted system, you can work from home, on the road. You can work in a hotel. Wherever you want to work, you are available. With your own equipment, it's also available, but we need to often do expensive add-ons, such as VPN concentrators and a number of different add-ons that allow it to work, licensing, things like that. There is a very strong trend out there in industry right now to allow people to work at home 1 or 2 days a week. Governments are encouraging it. They want people to work at home 1 day a week because it takes pressure off the roads, bridges, it takes congestion off the road, and even affects air quality. You can also use it as a recruiting tool, where you find single parents or people with disabilities like the opportunity of being able to work from home. So it does open up a lot of opportunities for people that may find it difficult to get employment out there, and help them along. And even millennials these days, the new young generation, they like the freedom of being able to work from home from time to time. We even had a mortgage broker who moved to Mexico, lived there for 2 years, and nobody knew that they lived there. And they were able to conduct their business as if they were still in Canada. So that was quite interesting. Failover. If your data connection goes down, it automatically reroutes the calls. With an analog or digital phone lines that go to a phone system, it can be set up, but usually it's a phone call to the telephone company to get the number redirected. And sometimes it can take up to a couple of days to get that number moved, where with your own hosted system, it's all automated. So an example we had was just like last month, we had a storage rental company that's headquartered out of White Rock, just outside of Vancouver. They have an office in Victoria, and the data connection went down for 4 hours. They were able to answer calls seamlessly in the White Rock location, and nobody knew that Victoria is down, and they were able to stay in business through cell phones without any extra effort on their part. Scalability. This is a very, very significant benefit. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on it. One of the main benefits of hosted is the ability to have unlimited growth. All we have to do is add phones. It just can grow to 100,000 users. But the major benefit is downsizing. If a company runs into trouble and need to downsize, with a hosted solution, you can actually scale back and save money. And where this really came to light was in 2008. A lot of companies that had very large phone systems and had significant reductions in their workforce, they ended up having to pay for equipment for years and years and years that they didn't need. And that was a game changer for hosted, because CFOs said they were never going to get caught again in that position where they had a whole bunch of excess technology that they didn't need as they downsized. Another benefit of scalability is seasonal businesses, such as landscapers, marinas, nurseries. They ramp up for the summer, but slow down for the winter. So it allows them to scale as their needs change throughout the season. Core structure. There is no need to have an initial large capital outlay for equipment. In fact, in hosted, it really is just an operating expense. As we mentioned earlier, you can go up and down as your needs change. But with premise-based equipment, you need to purchase or lease the equipment. This can affect your ability to borrow money for the business. So if something's an operating expense, it doesn't affect your ability to borrow money from the bank, as you may need capital to build your business. It can be significant if you're not spending money on technology, because the problem with technology is it depreciates almost immediately. If you keep the equipment for a long time, it can seem like it's a less expensive way to go. But at what cost for your business? What happens is systems become obsolete. So with a hosted solution, it doesn't become obsolete because the software is continuously updated. The servers are updated. This is all behind the scenes. You don't see it going on, but you're always kept up to date on a regular basis. With premise-based equipment, software is easily updated. However, people are not doing it. Once a system goes in, it just gets left. And that means it becomes more and more obsolete as time goes on. So eventually, these hardware systems become discontinued and are no longer supported by the manufacturer. And one of the biggest issues we have in our business are supporting people with 15-year-old equipment, where we can no longer get parts or anything. And then when they go down, they're in very serious trouble. So that is a really, really big benefit for hosted, where you're just always up to date. The new technology is non-proprietary. The endpoints, the telephones, are now an industry standard. So it means you can use from 20 different manufacturers a phone that you may like. We only carry 2 or 3 brands just out of convenience, but they're all programmed the same way, so they're easily transferable if you own the equipment, if you choose to go to another provider. Endpoints could be anything. We can put an endpoint on a cell phone, on a laptop, on a tablet, video phones. Your home phone can be your endpoint. That's why they're calling it an endpoint rather than the telephone. Even we've had people work from hotel phones as their endpoint, because they can just match that up with the system back in the office. Multiple locations act as one big system. As an example, we have a trucking firm that has operations in Montreal, Toronto, Calgary, Vancouver, and they're able to time shift their employees to answer calls. So it looks like they're open. Well, they are open 12 hours a day from 8 a.m. in the East till 5 p.m. Pacific. They are able to extend their hours of operation and service customers that much better. Because it acts as one big system, calls are easily transferred and are easily changed to who can answer phones, and that can be done on the fly. All North American calls are considered local. So there's no more dialing one for long distance. You just dial every number like it's local. There are caveats to this. Alaska, Yukon, Northwest Territories, Nunavut, and Hawaii are not considered part of that plan. They're quite a bit more expensive, but anything in the lower 48 states and the rest of Canada are all considered a local call, which can be a fairly significant savings for a number of different companies. Now, some things that are specific to us that I kind of want to cover off. No contract term. Almost all providers wanted a 3 to 5 year term on their technology. So we believe the main benefit of hosted is the ability to scale up and scale down as needed. And you don't want to be held to contracts that try to keep that number up. An example I can talk to personally, in 2008, I had a contract with a CRM supplier, which is our software for really handling incoming calls from customers. And we downsized significantly on that side, and I was not able to reduce the contract on that for 3 years. And I was paying for licenses where I no longer needed them. So it was a lesson learned. This is also true of cell phone contracts. They hold you to them. So as I said, we think a big benefit is not being held to contracts. We have something called a partner program. And the big thing about our partner program is we will go on site to do any work that needs doing. In many cases, with other providers. They ship the phone out to you and you plug it in and you have to be responsible for it. In our case, we will go out on site. We'll also include unlimited training. We also often will have to come out and test for network issues. In some cases, we have found people that have plugged in personal switches on the company network and have blocked their phone calls, and we've had to be able to find that. So sometimes you do need someone to go out on site and take a look at things. Simple billing. It's really just a monthly fee times the number of users per month. That's it. And it goes up and down depending on how many users you have each month. There is no need for trained staff. Everything is handled by a provider like us. You can keep your phone numbers. So traditionally, when you move locations to another city or to another town, particularly in the lower mainland, there's such small communities. If you move to a different community, you're not able to move your number. And that's often one of the most important advertising features you got is your phone number. What you have is your phone number. We can move it anywhere you want to go. Moves are very easy. So if you're either moving within the office, if you're moving on another floor, if you're moving within the town, if you're moving across country, you can keep your phone number, your extension. It's like you're on just one big system anywhere you go. There are advanced features that are built into these systems. CDR is call detail recording. That allows you to track by extension, by line, all your incoming, outgoing, and missed calls. That's just built in. On your premise-based equipment, that is typically an additional feature. Call recording is built in. You can record your conversations with people. That's very useful. Rather than taking notes, is to record the call and write out your notes later. Another advanced feature is simultaneous ring. Your extension, we can ring up to 5 different, on some of our systems, up to 5 different extensions. So we can have your home phone, your cell phone ring, and your office phone ring all at the same time. Salespeople really like that feature where they can walk away from their office and not miss that important call for the sale. Accountants don't like it so much, but salespeople do. Soft phones, again, that is where any endpoint can be. You can use it on your tablet or your cell phone. A lot of people like that when traveling, that their phone extension is actually on their cell phone, so it looks like they're calling from the office rather than from their cell phone. People do not want to give out their cell phone numbers because once people get hold of it, that's where they call you first. Conference rooms. This is where you can, instead of paying a monthly service or a per minute fee to use a conference room, it's built right into the system so you can have multiple parties all on a conference call and there's no signal loss on your existing premise-based equipment, especially we'll call them key systems. I won't get into technically. There is a signal loss, so the volume is low. On a hosted solution, the conference calls are kept at absolute regular volume. Hot desking is becoming a really important feature. So you'll have a real estate office where maybe 3 or 4 realtors will share a desk. They can all just change the extension on the fly so that it's their extension when they're in the office, and they can turn it back to somebody else when they leave that desk. Web-based control, reporting, and management, changes can be made by the customer if they want to through a web interface. When in the past you had a premise-based system, you had to call people like us to make changes. That's a lot easier now with your own desktop control pieces. In summary, a hosted telephone solution is a very powerful technology that will increase the profitability of your company and give you a competitive advantage. The main benefit also is the affordability without having to do the capital outlay that's required for new premise-based equipment. And as you grow to have to buy new equipment, it makes it much more flexible and easier for companies to grow. So it gives you the peace of mind of being able to run the business, knowing that it's being taken care of by other people in the background behind you. So that's basically all I have there, Stuart. And just, are there any questions?
Hi, Paul. Yeah, we do have a couple questions that came in. So the first one is, on average, how much can a small business say of, the example I think is, 10 people, an accounting firm in White Rock, and they have 3 accountants and 7 support staff. Have we done any research on what are the cost savings compared to the old traditional on-premise phone systems to hosted VoIP? Because you think you would pay over time, that would actually probably cost more, but that's definitely not. I think I know the answer. I don't think that's the case, right?
Well, it's a darn good question, and I'm not going to swear there. We do cost comparisons all the time because really you have to do the math. But I'll give you an example. An example like that. We're $33.95 a month per user, so it'd be $339 a month. So on a premise-based equipment, what you have to take into account is the purchase of the equipment, the phone lines, and the long-term support of that equipment, and the upgrading of that equipment. So if you just compare the phone equipment to hosted, it will look cheaper to go with your own equipment. But when we do a per user cost over a 5-year period, we find the cost very similar and often less expensive. And when we get into having to do the upgrading of that equipment down the road, hosted starts to look significantly less expensive in the long run.
And a follow-up question to that, Paul, is Patricia wants to know, for a solopreneur, so like a consulting firm or somebody who just works on their own, is there a cost savings to that versus maybe just getting a regular phone line from the telco?
Yes, I mean probably some of the biggest areas we've put in hosted is for mortgage brokers, 1 or 2 people. And the main benefit is, okay, I'll use that same number again, $33.95 a month compares to a phone line that you would get from the telephone company. But all those other benefits, the ability to do SIM-ring, the ability to do the call recording, the ability to transfer calls, the ability to make changes on a web interface, not going down if there's an outage, all those benefits, so it actually costs less and does a lot more.
And can you just remind us what SIM-ring is again?
Sorry, that is when all your endpoints or all your telephones ring at the same time. So I'll use myself as an example. My direct line rings in my office, my cell phone rings, and my home phone rings. So doesn't matter where I'm sitting, I can just answer calls that are coming to me at the office.
Gotcha.
So it's simple.
Kind of same way I do it. I actually have a phone in the office in Langley, but also when I'm back east on the other side of the Rockies, I have my phone rings there in the office there as well, right? That's kind of the same thing you're talking about, right?
Exactly.
Okay. What about porting of telephone numbers? So if a business has a line with TELUS, can they port the phone numbers over or move their phone numbers over to the service that we offer, Paul?
Yes, absolutely. I guess I didn't make that clear. That's one of the main benefits is when you move your phone number to a hosted service, we can now take that number anywhere you need to go. So often when people move is a prime time that they move to a hosted solution because they are unable to keep their phone numbers with TELUS, or they have to spend with a carrier, and they have to pay a lot of money for forwarding if they want to keep that existing number. We're able to move that number and keep the cost exactly the same.
And then they also get all the other benefits too, if I understand, like the voicemail. I think can we do voicemail to email, Paul? Is that possible in our system?
Yes, it is.
So we can even get your voicemail sent to your email, which I don't know if
I didn't put that on there, but yeah, that's a very standard feature.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of the telcos offer that as a standard feature. So that's some added bonuses and the conferencing and things that you and I take advantage of on a daily basis that are just part of the regular out of the box system. Correct?
Yes.
Awesome. So, Paul, any closing comments that you want to make regarding? I think you mentioned the starting price of $34.95 per endpoint or per user, and then also any upfront cost to get started, or is it just like regular $34.95 to get going?
So we do charge an install fee because we don't have a contract. So we typically charge like a $65 setup fee, but after that, no, the phone's included, the monthly fees, everything's just $33.95 and includes your endpoint, and that can be upgraded down the road if need be. Probably would be a few years, but it's just a monthly ongoing expense.
Oh, one last question popped in, Paul, while you're kind of explaining that last little bit there. What about, do you have to have a regular internet line? What do you recommend for, connectivity to the hosted service? Is it like with a regular Shaw or some other sort of, residential internet work, or do you need to upgrade to a business line? What do you recommend?
Well, what we recommend is throw as much bandwidth at it as you can afford. It doesn't need a lot of bandwidth for voice to work. It does have to get through though. So we do test all internet connections before we install systems, because 99% of the time it works fine, but once in a while we have to swap out the internet connection. But these days, internet is getting faster and faster and more reliable, so we're not really having voice quality issues.
And you and I use it all the time, and it works great, Paul. One last other question. The questions keep pouring in. So we got lots of time, folks, so keep having your questions come in. We have an hour booked for it, but we've still got lots of time. So one other question just came in, Paul, about fax services. So if you have a fax machine and then a telephone and a cell phone, is that $33.95 per line, or is it just what would the fees be there? I'm assuming that the cell phone would get a soft phone installed on it, right? And you would keep paying your carrier for the cell phone coverage, but we can either forward the line to the cell phone, or we can install the soft phone on the cell phone. So that's really only one. That's only one service, right? So that's $33.95, correct?
You answered that question correctly.
Okay,
yes.
Okay. What about the fax line though? Is that an additional charge?
It's additional
how
charge.
Does that work?
It's an additional charge, but what we do is what we call fax to email. So these days, where people do so little faxing these days, they don't really need a fax machine. So with fax to email, we charge $14.95, and all your faxes come in as a PDF to wherever you want it to go. If they need to send faxes, what we do is print to fax. So on your computer, instead of printing to your printer, you put print to fax. You put in the phone number for the fax machine and send it off.
So that so if in the other way, if there's questions, and I know how I do it this way, if you have to sign something, then you just scan it to an attachment and then upload the PDF file or whatever attachment to the fax service, and you can send it off that way as well. Is that how ours works as well?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So that's pretty awesome, Paul. Okay, so one other question just popped in again. So we're getting lots of questions coming in. What about if the internet goes down, and then I think I already know the answer to this question. I think you covered it already. If the internet goes down at the office, people can still connect to the cloud service through either a BRIA soft phone, or they can just temporarily forward things to their cell phone. Is that how it works?
Yes. Basic answer. Yeah. I mean, we can change numbers on the fly. We can fail over to cell phones. We could fail over to somebody's home phone. We could fail over to another office. There's so many options that are available.
Yeah, the internet never goes down, right, Paul? It's like one of those things that never goes down.
Wow. You want me to lie, do you?
All right. Well, there you go. So I think, folks, that covers everything, Paul. That's all the questions I had come in. Again, if you want to take action and get in touch with Paul and arrange a demo or talk to him a little more how it works, his contact information is here on the screen, and feel free to reach out to him. Paul, I think you work regular 8 to 5 Pacific time.
Well, you see that direct number?
Yep.
It rings everywhere.
So you can even get him while he's having dinner.
Don't call me at midnight.
All right, Paul, that's great. So thanks again for doing this. I learned a lot. I'm sure all the people that were on the call today got a lot. Again, if you have any questions that you didn't get a chance to get answered, or if you think of something afterwards, you can either reach Paul on email or give him a phone call. I know personally, Paul's a phone call guy. He's in the phone business, right?
Exactly.
So, folks, thanks again for joining us. Paul, any closing comments?
No, I think we covered everything that I wanted to cover.
Excellent. Again, Paul's a man of few words, but that's why we love him. All right, folks, thanks again for joining us. And we'll Paul, what do we have on? What are we going to do next month? Are we going to have another topic next month?
Wow, put me on the spot. What did we talk about last week, Stuart?
We talked about lots of stuff.
We had somebody to choose from. We'll
keep your emails open, folks, and we'll make sure you get an invite to the next our next webinar, which will be sometime late March. Thanks again, everyone. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Stuart.